Hey everyone. Not sure who's tuning in. Hi. Hey. Okay, let's just give it a second and everyone can kind of catch up. Hi guys. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm going to wait for Dana to join in. It's a beautiful day here in LA. We're so happy that you all are joining us. We're going to talk a bit about NYC Together and Project Lead. This is a project that's close and very near to my heart, and we're just here to talk about why that is, and we're going to learn more about the project and the organization. So let me see where Dana is. There she is. She's so cute. I got you, girl.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
How?
Lana.
Hi, Dana. Good morning.
Oh, yes. Good morning for you. It's
That's right. Good
East
afternoon
Coast.
for you.
Yes, it's special to be here with you in this in the middle of this pandemic. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, likewise. Honestly, likewise. I'm just so honored to have you in my life, to have met you through such an incredible way. Um,
That is true. The universe brought us together.
the universe absolutely brought us together, and if people are wondering how that is, Dana and I together were participating in the 21 Days of Abundance group. And our dear friend Goldie Sammy brought us together. And Dana's been working with Michael K. Williams on NYC Together, the organization that she founded. What was it, 6 years ago?
5. We
Five
just had
years
our
ago.
5-year anniversary on May 5th.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Goalie, who I like to say that she's like a walking. Is that, what noise is that? Is that your computer?
I'm in the office.
Okay. I was like, I think angels are trying to like send requests.
Yes, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I tried to
Um,
find a quiet place where I work out of this police precinct and just try to find a quiet place, but of course there's beeping.
I understand. That's good to know. Tell us more about that.
The precinct or the beeping? Uh,
How you ended up there and your office is there, and maybe you can tell us a bit about NYC Together and how you started it and why, etc.
sure. So NYC Together, like we said, was founded 5 years ago, and the goal of NYC Together was to dramatically disrupt the systems that were putting youth into incarceration. And if they had to be arrested, how in a crisis moment, how do we stop them from recidivating again? So how do you turn that crisis moment into a turning point? And especially, how do you do that in neighborhoods that are over policed, under resourced, and whatnot? So we decided to pilot this program with the police department where we would take officers and young people who were getting suspended, which puts them on the path of the school to prison pipeline. I don't know if that's a phrase a lot of people know, but it's essentially kids getting suspended and ending up in handcuffs and going to juvenile detention facilities, or like in New York, up until a few years ago, they were going to Rikers Island, an adult prison, an adult jail, because our age of criminality was 16. So how can we shift what happens when young people come in contact with officers, and how can you culturally change police officers to think about their jobs differently? Like, what is public safety and how is that achieved? And we know that you can't have criminal solutions to social problems. So if a young person is stealing from a bodega, you know, is that young person stealing because there's economic constraints in the household? Do they not have enough food? What are the core issues to that type of behavior? And then how do you address those issues?
Mm.
So we've been working with young people and officers for the last 5 years. All of our kids go on to graduate high school. We're very proud of them. Sad this year that we're not going to have a real graduation, so that sucks.
Mm.
But
Are
and
you
then
doing anything special in place of it? Like, is there any sort of like,
well,
Zoom sessions or house party calls?
the kids are really overwhelmed from the virtual learning. All the
Right.
moms out there and parents and guardians, I'm sure you understand that. We are working, one of our big donors and supporters, Johnny Shipes from Cinematic Records, said as soon as this whole thing is over, he's going to host the most epic prom for them. So we're like just waiting for that to happen. But yeah, we'll be in touch with them and trying to do cool things.
Nice.
We are in touch with them every day anyway. But so we've been working with these kids and cops, but then we took it up a notch and we said, how do we engage celebrities and shift culture, police culture? How to get them to start thinking about their work differently every day, and elevating that message and shifting the tone. So we've been working with lots of celebrities like Michael K. Williams to try to really rewire the police department and how they operate. And we've been executing protocols in the precincts that really change what happens when young people come into contact with law enforcement. Instead of them getting punitive things like arrests and suspensions, we're seeing them get, or summonses in the precinct, we're seeing them get supportive services. They're being connected to services, people that know how to fill their needs. And so we're super excited about that, because then the likelihood that they'll continue that behavior is automatically diminished. And we're seeing great results. So we're proud of the last 5 years, and we want to keep growing. And you know,
How many kids? How many kids do you have in your program?
So we service 45 kids weekly, but then on top of that, like what's the protocols that we're unrolling? I don't directly come into contact with them, but because of the protocols, it's at least 100 kids a month.
Wow.
Who are cycling in through these different protocols that allow them to get connected to important services that are needed.
Wow. That's amazing, Dana. Honestly.
It's cool.
It's cool. And I can see, the times that we've talked about the kids, like you just absolutely love them so much. You're like, these are my kids.
Yeah.
I feel that love and connection from you.
I appreciate that. It's funny because just an hour ago, one of them had sent me a message on Instagram that I had worked with 2 years ago. She had graduated, so it's been 2 years since I've physically seen her. And she was like, when this is all over, can we all just get together, like the old group back together again? I'm like, absolutely. And we really become our ecosystem. There's a lot of love. Everything we do is grounded in love. So
well, yeah. I mean, that's why I'm involved, is like, this is a new thing for me, working with these kids, and being from Brooklyn and being one of those kids at one point in my life is what brought me, into your life. And I think that's why Goalie said, oh my God, I think this is a perfect match. And I'm so excited to meet these kids. I know at some point we're going to end up doing that. Yeah, I know. I can't wait to meet them in person, but I know we're going to have like a live session. So everyone who's watching now, like, tune in when that happens and we'll make the announcement. But at some point, I'm going to meet these kids live here on Instagram, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah.
I already know in my head the kids that are going to like fall in love with you and click with you. And they'll be like, can I come back to LA with you?
That's so cute.
We had kids that Mike loves, and for their 18th birthday, we sent them to Atlanta when he was filming in Atlanta. Like we love to provide the opportunity for travel experiences and see things like Mike on set. I mean, just really cool stuff. So I already know you're going to be in love with, I already know who's going to be in love with you, and you'll be the feelings will be mutual, and we'll have to ship them to LA. Of
course. Absolutely. When all of this is behind us, God knows when, but hopefully not too far in our near future.
Yeah.
Wanted to talk a little bit more about, why you started NYC Together, and, a little bit of your background in this kind of work.
Yeah. Well, I think in learning about you, your life is exactly the reason why I started this. I mean, and you could, if you want to share your own story, but just like talking to you and you saying like, I made it, right? I fell into opportunities. I hustled. I really did the hard work, and now you're a gift to the world. And all of my kids are gifts to the world, all of them. And our humanity really relies and depends on people reaching their goals and their dreams and being the people that they're supposed to be. And unfortunately, we live in a country that the disparities are huge. And our young people are faced with obstacles that are unheard of. You know, people, you can't imagine where some neighborhoods look like third world countries. And then we expect kids to thrive, you know, and survive at the same
Yeah.
time, and unpacking all of that. And so starting the organization was really my obligation. I knew the access that I had. I understand the systems that I was working in, like the family court system, the police department, all these things. And how can we shift their energy and their resources to be helpful and supportive? And ultimately, we're creating greater public safety. So they're achieving their goals, but we're teaching them that they have other tools in their tool belts. And so when you hear things about like alternatives to incarceration and like these different kinds of courts, like drug treatment court, everybody's like, oh, that sounds amazing, or, you know, like it's so radical, but really it's common sense. It's what we should be doing. And so the organization was started simply to find the Lanas of the world and, you know, allow
alternative options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allow them
yeah, because I remember when I grew up in Brooklyn, you know, I was probably about 12 years old, and there was this one kid that I had a huge crush on, you know, and actually he became my first kiss. And I remember he was really smart. He was half Dominican and half Italian, and he was really like trigueño, like dark and like just beautiful.
dreamy.
Just totally big eyes, like just full lips, like dark skin, and just beautiful. And I remember when he dropped out of school, and I was like, why? You're so smart. And he's like, well, you know, I got to make money. And I was like, what do you mean you got to make money? He's like, well, you know, like we don't have any money. You know, they were living with like their grandmother, their parents weren't really around that much. And they were all like in one little 2-bedroom apartment. And I was like, what do you mean you're going to make money? And he started selling drugs. And I was like, oh God, no. Because I just saw what he was capable of. And he was so beautiful and like charming, and like, and I just thought, this is a bad road. This is a bad road. And I remember writing him a letter just saying, please don't do this. Please go find a way to go back to school. But he's like, I don't even know how to put food on the table, put clothes on my back. Like we need to, like, I want to be able to like get things for myself.
Right.
You know, that guy ended up in a horrible situation and ended up in jail for 10 years, ended up coming out, ended up selling drugs again, and ended up killed. And I remember getting that call when I was on Swingtown, and I was just in the middle of filming, and it was like, I got this call, you know, so-and-so has been shot. And it was so-and-so has been shot a block away from where my father was shot. And it was just like all those feelings like came back again. And I just went, when is this going to end? Like, how do we get these kids? How do we give them another way out? How do we give them an alternative? You know, and it's out there for them, but like it wasn't really around when I was a kid. And if it was around, I didn't know about it. I didn't know about the programs. I feel like
the connectivity piece is huge.
Yeah.
And especially when you're dealing with kids that don't have a lot of confidence and they're used to systems failing them. Like the school tells them, we don't really want you here. They're involved in all these other different systems. Like the welfare system is so terrible. Like all these different systems happen. So they self-select to not participate in things because they're used to things failing, you know, and that sucks too. And so it's really identifying those kids that need to be reached out to most, right? Not the kids that would automatically self-select to participate in something, but kids that if you gave them the extra nudge that they'd show up. And that's why we say we're grounded in love, because our kids know when they're with us that they're loved. Like unequivocally, they know that. And they get that from every angle, even when they make mistakes.
Right. That's important. I mean, love is what we all want and what we all need to succeed in every capacity, you know.
Exactly.
It's like I look at my dog Lola, and not to segue too much, but like even my dog now, I have to hand feed her. I'm just like, what's happening? Why? But she's kind of gotten to this place where she just wants that deeper connection, you know. And it's like, oh, okay, this is about love. And if you feel that love, if you feel seen, if people are giving you their time, that goes so far. So
So,
yeah.
and making people feel seen. That's like yesterday, Michael K. Williams came out to Brownsville
I know,
for
I
his
saw that.
birthday. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the people were so appreciative of his presence. We were handing out masks. And some people, because we were with the police, they wanted to vent, right? Because there's a
Right.
lot of this going on right now. And there's a lot of trauma and a lot of stress. And giving them an opportunity in a non-confrontational moment to express their feelings and their frustrations was wildly important and profound, right?
Right.
And healing, like we have to be doing more of this work where we're hearing people, seeing people. So yeah, I mean, I feel terrible about the young man that you described. That's just,
Yeah.
we don't want that for anybody.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, we have some questions here, and I wanted to get to them. What have been some of the big accomplishments of the organization since you started?
Well, I mean, I kind of laid all that out with like us doing the protocols and whatnot,
Yeah.
but I think our greatest accomplishment has been really shifting the language and culture of the officers that we work with so
Right.
that they see our kids differently, which then helps them operate differently in the world, not just with our kids, but all the kids that they come into contact with. And, you know, our greatest accomplishments have definitely been sending kids abroad. So we get kids passports and driver's license. They've
That's
traveled to
amazing.
India, Australia, Italy.
And what do they do when they travel there? Like, what are some of the things? Do they meet like some of the health experts there? Do they meet like what is their experience overseas?
Each trip has been different, but for India, they did a yoga retreat.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that was really special. Australia was our last trip that we went on, and that was all about leadership and mentorship. So teaching them how to be leaders and mentors to kids below them, like in grades below them, meaning. So that was really great. I mean, just think about going to Australia, 24 hours
Oh my
away.
God.
It was wild.
I
So we're
mean,
really
I
proud of
wish I was
that.
one of your kids back then. Like, or like if I could bring you back into time with me.
I mean, I just and their whole world changes and opens up. And we also do local trips. So we go to Atlanta. We work with Usher in Atlanta. He does a youth leadership program over the summer. So the kids get to go down there and be with all these different kids and explore music and entrepreneurship.
Wow.
So just like the mobility piece, because a lot of kids, and you know this from where you grew up, you don't leave your block because you can't, right? Either the financial constraints or the danger of crossing into different neighborhoods, you know. So for our kids to travel is wild. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely under that like sort of restriction myself growing up, and it was, you couldn't go past a certain street because like one block down, south was, the projects. And my father was very much like, do not go past this street. You can go this way, but do not go past that street and do not go past that street. And it was like, I had like maybe like an 8-block radius that I could travel within, and that was it.
Right.
And it was very much like, oh, okay. And I remember growing up, I remember seeing when other sort of gangs, I guess you can call them, like these groups of guys, that would cross into our neighborhood and it would just go down.
Yeah.
And it was like, you're hitting the floor, you're like trying to dodge shootouts and bullets, and you're like, this is crazy. And I just remember thinking like, I'm 13 years old. Like no kid should be in this situation. No child should have to be fearful of their lives when they're walking home from school.
So the girl that I mentioned that messaged me that had graduated, she was one of my junior high students, and that group of girls, it was a girls group. There was a shootout in the park next to their school. I mean, like a drive-by shooting, and just thinking about like logistically, like what does that do to you internally, and really addressing that, and then exposing them to a world where safety exists. And the idea is not that we have to take kids out of their community, because I really believe that the communities that we work in are some of the most amazing and resilient communities ever. Mm-hmm. It's about using our voices and platforms to support those communities and make sure that those communities are getting the things that they need and that they deserve. I'm not asking for anything special, but let's give these communities what everybody else has. Why is a park getting a $1.2 million renovation in Greenpoint or Williamsburg and a $700,000 renovation in Brownsville, right?
Right.
Why don't we have equal numbers of parks? Why do we have economic disparities and things? So really, like, our kids deserve these opportunities, and they
Better
deserve to feel
markets,
better.
better, better quality food, better access to, like, whatever is needed that other communities have. What other communities that you work in predominantly? So we have Brownsville.
Brownsville, East New York, Bedford-Stuyvesant, Fort Greene. We have kids that live in Canarsie and Flatbush. So, these communities are historically over-policed. These communities are historically neglected when it comes to funding. And that's a systems problem. That's not the community. Like, this is not something that residents should have to take on alone. This is the equity fight, right? How do we make sure that all communities have the access and the supportive funding that they need to thrive?
And so now that we're facing this COVID-19 pandemic, how has it affected these communities, and what is NYC Together doing to sort of, lend a hand into helping these communities and helping these children? Like, can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So the week before the schools were going to close down, I knew already that my kids were not going to be the kids that had laptops at home or Wi-Fi. And the Department of Education was like, we're going to get 300,000 iPads out and this, that, and the other. And the system continuously fails our students, so we weren't going to rely on them. We immediately mobilized and activated the hip hop community here. They raised $10,000 in like 4 days. We were able to buy every single one of our young people a laptop. We got Wi-Fi hotspots for the kids that needed the Wi-Fi. And then we were able to we hired people from the community that were laid off from COVID to be virtual tutors for our young people. So giving our kids the individual attention they needed to stay on track while, building other people up economically during this tough time.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing food packages, so making sure the families had enough to eat, regardless of their situation. Some people weren't working. The schools, they could go to the school to get the free lunches, but then that means that they're leaving their house, and that's like puts them more at risk. So we were able to do that. And then also we instated a learn and earn portion of the program. So we told the kids, if you work with your virtual tutors for X amount of hours, we see all your work is turned in on Google Classroom, and you have to share one positive thing with me every day, you can earn up to $75 a week. So we've been paying the kids to participate in their online learning. So, it was a huge shift. We had to mobilize really quickly and figure it out pretty quickly. But I'm happy to say our kids have been doing more schoolwork than they've actually ever done in their lives.
Amazing. That's incredible.
And if my virtual tutors are watching, I thank them so much, because they're really hugely important in making this happen.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, tell us more. Let's talk about Project Lead. Let's talk about my involvement. Let's talk about Michael's. Let's talk about the importance of Project Lead and the whole theory behind it, and why we've started this program to begin with.
Yeah. So Project Lead is kind of going to piggyback what the virtual learning was doing, which is a learn and earn program, only we're going to have something to deliver. So LEAD stands for Learn, Earn, Advocate, Deliver. And over the last couple of weeks, again, being nimble and mobilizing really quickly, we're building out a social justice curriculum that focuses specifically on the underlying issues of why communities of color were disproportionately impacted by COVID. So things like redlining, right? Really dense housing, things like food deserts. Why is there not access to good food, which leads to diabetes and other things like that? Health inequities. Why do people of color have less access to good health care? And then when they do get the health care, what kind of racism is happening within our healthcare system? Which if you haven't heard about this, you need to read about it. I mean, it's scary to think doctors would give people with darker skin less anesthesia because they think they can handle pain more. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with. So really uncovering all those issues, we built this curriculum out. And from that curriculum, they're going to create a campaign, a marketing campaign for their own communities. And we're doing that because we don't think that it's the police officer's job to do social distancing education. We understand the trauma that that invokes when you have these interactions with officers. It puts the community and officers at risk.
Right.
And the messaging, you kids know the content that they want to consume. So why not have our kids prepare the content that's going to go out, and they understand the logistics of where they live. When the mayor says, oh, you have to stay 6 feet apart from each other, our kids that live in Nitro, which is like housing projects, and if more than one person is in the hallway at a time, you can't be social distancing, right? It's just logistically impossible. So our kids are going to develop those marketing campaigns. They'll lead virtual town halls. They'll learn about civic engagement and grassroots organizing. So they'll be able to do all of this and really lead, right? Really take over and take this on, and all while getting paid, because summer youth employment was defunded because of COVID. So all of these kids that rely on that money, all of these kids that rely on that experience now won't have it. So we thought that this was the best path forward, and we're just really grateful to you and to Michael for trying to help, because every dollar we raise is going directly to paying the kids. So the more money we raise.
And I want to talk about the importance of paying these kids, because a lot of people just, there's a lot of organizations asking for money, and we understand that, and this is a time to help, and any amount that anyone can donate is greatly appreciated. But I want to talk about the importance in paying these kids. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I described neighborhoods to you: Brownsville, East New York, Bed-Stuy. For the viewers who aren't familiar, these are neighborhoods that experience violent crime disproportionately to the rest of the city. Just 2 days ago, we had a 16-year-old murdered at, I think it was 3:00 in the afternoon. So we know that if young people are not engaged in something positive, if they are so economically depressed that they're willing to do things like how you described, selling drugs and participating in other negative behaviors to survive, which could ultimately lead to really horrible consequences, that's not the plan. That's not acceptable. So we need to be able to pay these young people and pro-socially engage them, because that will directly impact public safety and ensuring that we don't have a spike in youth gun violence over the summer. If you just have a bunch of kids with nothing to do, nowhere to go, it's hot outside, it's hot in their buildings, what is going to happen? It's a recipe for disaster. And so we want to empower our young people. And for everybody who was giving money to food banks and all these other places, that's wonderful. Do it. I hear it. But how empowering and how wonderful and impactful is it if a young person can get a paycheck and then buy their own food versus standing on a line? The lines here are around the block for food banks. It's untenable. And this is a solution-based program that we know is going to be successful.
I bet some of these kids don't even have parents and they live with their grandparents, et cetera. I knew a lot of kids in those situations that they lived with their grandparents.
Yeah.
And, you have these older people that can't get out and work and they can't earn a living. So it's really dependent on these children to take care of the household and be a provider.
That's right. We have a lot of kids that is definitely their circumstance.
Yeah.
And so why not give them a positive thing to engage in versus
right.
a negative thing?
Right. Instead of like selling drugs or, robbing, bodegas or something. Yeah.
Yeah. The unrelated to COVID, just like a brief story, is we had a young person 2 years ago who was doing armed robberies on trains. And again, thinking about how to rework what the police department linked that young person to a job readiness program that's absolutely phenomenal. It's called Exalt Youth. And that young person did not commit another robbery. It's been 2 years. We're still in contact with that young person. Wow. So that dramatically changed the trajectory of that person's life while also creating increased public safety because the robbery stopped. Mm-hmm. So just really thinking about how crucial it is to make sure that our kids are employed, they're safe, and they're engaged this summer.
Dana, thank you so much. I love the work that you're doing. It's so inspiring. It's admirable. I'm so honored that you brought me on board.
Oh, we're grateful for you. Trust me, it's you've been a breath of fresh air in all of this.
Well, thank you. I mean, I honestly have to thank the fans and everyone that's tuned in right now because I know so many of them have donated, and I just want to thank them and thank them for supporting me and the beliefs that I have and the causes that are near and dear to my heart. And this is my number one during this pandemic. That NYC Together is the one that's like really filling up my whole heart right now. So I want to thank you all for your participation in today. And Dana, I want to thank you. I know you have a lot of work to do, and we're at our 30-minute mark, so I don't want to take
Yeah.
up too much of your time. But I
Can
wanted
we
to
just
say,
remind everybody that they could win a Zoom
oh
talk
yeah,
with
that's
you?
right. That's right. So well, a couple things before we end. If you haven't donated and you can donate, any amount is greatly appreciated. Please go to my Instagram page, and under and in my bio section is a link to the GoFundMe for Project Lead, and you can win a chance to have a Zoom lunch with me, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So anything that you can donate, your name gets put in some hat, a really big hat, because we're hoping we get a
Yes.
lot of donations. and the angels that be will pick your name out, and we will have a beautiful lunch together.
Yes. So please
Yes.
donate, and you could check out all the work that we're doing at nyctogether.org, or you can visit our Instagram page, which is nyctogether.org, or my Instagram page is filled with pictures of our wonderful young people. But we're just so appreciative of everybody donating, because this is directly going to young people who are going to really need this over the summer. So thank you, Lana.
Yeah, thank you, Dana. You are an angel. I adore you. And thank you, everyone. And we'll be doing a few more lives next week. We're trying to figure it all out, but we will keep
Yes.
you informed as to when and what time. And thank you all. Have a beautiful day. Stay safe and healthy out there.
Bye, Lana.
Bye.